Shabbat Shalom. Tis the season as this Sunday night we will begin the holiday of Hanukkah. And the question that I want to ask everyone is, what, on one foot, is the message of the holiday of Hanukkah? We have freedom. Great, thank you, Mike. Really, freedom. Fantastic. What else do we have? I heard faith somewhere back there. Very good. Yes, I see a hand up with the purple sweater. Yeah. Faith. Wonderful. What? Eric? Return. Ah, very nice. Very nice. Oh, I like that. Teshuvah. Very good. We return to the temple. We return to leadership of the land of Israel. Very good. What else? Did I hear some light around there? Thank you very much. Yeah. By the way, there are only two Jewish holidays that take place when there is not a full moon. When there's no moon in the sky, the darkest time of the year, or when there's at night. One is Hanukkah, and the other, does anyone know? Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, right? The night before is, right, there's 2 days. So one is when there's total darkness, and then the second day is when we first see the crescent of the moon. Not only that, but Hanukkah takes place at the darkest time of the year when we are most, tilted away from the sun, and depending on where you are in the hemisphere, but it works for us. And so at a time of darkness, we celebrate light. Great. What else? Okay, pretty good. I think I'll just build off of the return and freedom, and you may notice that the Chanukiah of our day and age rests on the capital mountain of Israel in Jerusalem, next to the Knesset, thus hinting that Hanukkah also tells a story about Jewish sovereignty over the land of Israel. I want to introduce a different subtle theme, one that I believe serves as the shoresh, as the foundation for all these other wonderful themes that we've talked about. One that perhaps we don't think about, but I actually believe we do every time we celebrate Hanukkah. And in order to appreciate that, I want us to think about the task that the rabbis had when they knew there was this story of the Maccabees. They knew there was a victory. They knew there was a war. They knew there was something going on at the temple, and they had to figure out a way to commemorate this holiday. Not only that, but something that we often don't appreciate is the rabbis also know that we have another sacred cycle that we are doing today, which is the cycle of reading from the Torah. And every time we come across the holiday of Hanukkah, right before the holiday of Hanukkah, we have this week's Torah portion, Vayeshev, that introduces the character of Joseph. And over the course of the Hanukkah holiday, before, during, and after, we go through the Joseph novella. And the rabbis are trying to figure out, how do we link the two? Maybe the rabbis are actually pulling the strings, and they're trying to link the story of Hanukkah to the story of Joseph. And how then can we find meaning in the two? In order to appreciate Joseph, you have to realize where his story takes place. His story takes place at the end of the first book of the Torah, the book of Genesis. And what is one of the main themes of the book of Genesis? Let me walk you through it. God creates the world, has this wonderful idea of a family living in the Garden of Eden, culminates in Adam and Eve not trusting one another, culminates in Cain killing Abel. Things are not going well, yada, yada, yada. God tries to restart. Along comes Abraham. Abraham follows his father from Ur-Kasdim in the direction of Canaan. Families have a number of challenges. And then Abraham brings his barren wife and everyone that remains that was willing to go with him, and they enter into Canaan. There, Abraham has two sons in the beginning, Ishmael and Isaac. The Torah describes how Ishmael treated Isaac, and the word that is used is mitzachek, which we can understand in two ways. One is he teased him. The other is he wanted his name. If Yitzchak was going to be the one who was going to receive the birthright of his father, Ishmael wanted his name. The two separate. We don't hear of any type of peace between the two of them. They only come together at the passing of their father, and they stand in I wouldn't say peace, but not in conflict. And we see in their relationship the beginning of a story of a family trying to work together, and it's a little bit thorny, as Ishmael and Yitzchak, they're not best friends. Who comes next? Isaac has a brother, Esav. And what do the two of them do with their birthright? We all know that we have Jacob. Apologies, skipped a generation here. Isaac is born, and he has Esav. And as we know, the story of Isaac and Esav, Isaac and Ishmael was the first two. Then we have Jacob and Esav. Okay, my apologies. Jacob and Esav. And what happens with Jacob and Esav? Jacob steals Esav's birthright. And how does Esav respond? Esav responds by saying to his father, when you pass away and I am mourning, I am going to kill my brother Jacob. What happens? Jacob gets out of town. The two live separate lives until they have to come together. And what is used to describe the night before they come together? None other than a wrestling match. We read the text as that Jacob is wrestling with an angel, but the rabbis believe that the true angel is either Esav or the schema, the way that Jacob views his relationship with his brother Esav. And it's the first time we see since Abraham that now brothers that might be disagreeing and living in tension and teasing are now physically wrestling. And what happens as a result of this, thank you for the musical background. What happens as a result of this is that the two come together, and then later, when Isaac does pass away, they come together again. There is a sense of calm, but we don't truly know. Do the two of them ever become best friends? As our tradition goes, and as we follow the histories of the descendants of Esav and Jacob, there still is tension. There's still stories of conflict and reconciliation going back and forth. And I show this because if you compare it to the relationship of Isaac and Ishmael, things continue to get dicier. And then we get into this week's Torah portion. What is going to happen with the trend of how siblings treat one another? Things are going relatively well until Joseph is born. And Joseph is loved by his father Jacob, and Joseph has dreams of sheaves and of being a source of blessings. And our rabbis believe that Joseph is seeing that he is going to be an inheritor of the land of Israel, and through him, he will have many descendants. And when he shares his dreams with his brothers, they, of course, get upset. It might be jealousy. It might be anger because it is not fair. And what does Jacob do? A very liminal moment for our people. Because when Jacob hears that there is tension, all of the brothers are living in a place called Shechem, which became famous from last week's Torah portion. Shechem is the place where the brothers Levi and Yisachar bring justice, and Shimon bring justice, swift and bloody, to the Shechemites. It is a place of violence. It is a place where, again, if we see something that is not fair, we respond quickly and swiftly and zealously, regardless of the conflict. And it is to Shechem where Jacob sends Joseph. And when we read these small words in this week's Torah portion, it's like, oh, he went down to Shechem and they had... This is a big deal. Because if we don't know how the story goes, we should have a deep fear that it's not going to end well. Because only violence comes out of Shechem. And what would happen if the trend continued and if there was violence? Would we at this moment be able to merit the blessing of the land of Israel and of being a source of blessing and prosperity, and that our children would flourish like the stars in the sky? Would all that happen had what was supposed to take place in Shechem taken place? And it's not great, because we see after Shechem, Joseph goes to a pit. And if you think a pit is pretty low, lower than a pit is the land of Egypt, which for us as a people is the lowest of the low where the people of Israel can dwell. It is the opposite of Zion, the land of Israel. And that is where this week's Torah portion ends. Joseph is in Egypt and his siblings are far apart. And this is the Torah portion we read right before the holiday of Hanukkah. And it is perhaps this week's Torah portion that frames how the rabbis understood the consequences of the story of Hanukkah. We see the story of Hanukkah heroically, but I wish I could tell you that the Hasmoneans engaged in a wonderful, peaceful negotiation with the Greeks. I wish I could tell you that when the Hasmoneans decided to engage on their return to Jerusalem, and when they were advocating for freedom, when they were clearly able to delineate the evil Greeks from the Jews, who perhaps had an assimilated identity. And I wish I could tell you that when the Hasmoneans gained power, that they led this prosperous, morally strong nation that didn't require them to go to Rome to give them guidelines. That was the ultimate legacy of the Hasmoneans. And the rabbis are sitting there saying, what do we do here? And then we go to the rest of the Joseph novella, and you all know how it ends. Just when you think that things are about to fall apart, there's a major U-turn. Somehow, this family, this collection of brothers and siblings, figures out a way to come together. They test each other, they cry, they make some mistakes here and there, but ultimately, the end of the first book of the Torah of Genesis is a story of reconciliation. The people of Israel coming together. Avram Infeld makes a statement that says we should not refer to the people of Israel as a nation, but more importantly, we should look at the people of Israel as that, a people. And how do you treat your brothers and your sisters? How do you carry them with you when we have challenges that we face and that await us? Hanukkah, perhaps, can be a pathway for us to follow during moments when we want to channel our inner Shechem, when we are angry at one another, when we feel that we are treated not the same way. And what do the rabbis offer us then? And what is it that we will do this Sunday night that we can latch on to anytime we feel internal conflict? We can light the Hanukkah menorah, the Chanukiah. The mitzvah of lighting the Chanukiah is Persuma Nisa, so that we can display the miracle of Hanukkah. What if the miracle of Hanukkah is, despite all of the challenges that the people of Israel face, whether it be zealousness of the Hasmoneans or the assimilation of the other members of the people of Israel living at that time, somehow, some way, we figured a way forward so that we can continue that Shalshelet HaKabbalah, this chain of tradition that brings us to this moment. How then do we display this miracle? We come together, and despite our busy schedules, despite our high school tests, despite the challenges we face to travel, somehow 8 times over the next week at night, we will come together as families to light the Chanukiah. And then when the rabbis say, what is it that is the display of the miracle? Perhaps it's less about the flame going outward and more a reflection of the glow on each and every one of our faces every time we come together, whether it be as a family or as an extended family or as a greater sense that we are a part of a people. As we approach this Hanukkah, may we follow in the footsteps of our ancestors that overcame internal conflict and were able to find the mitzvah of Shalom Bayit, peace in the house, and may we continue to hold on to this mitzvah and display it for many years to come. Shabbat Shalom.